What's good, everybody? It's your man's Heralander. God Emperor Heralander. The boys. Y'all better watch the show, The Boys. Y'all better read the comic book. Stop playing. You only drink the finest of breast milks, nigga. Homelander out there drinking flying titty milk. God damn, this show is fucking crazy, bro. But anyway, look, today, nigga, I ain't hurling. I can't be out here too long, but we're gonna break down some shit. I bust up for work in a minute. I probably maybe got an hour and some change. But we're about to break down this. We're about to break down why hasn't God destroyed Satan yet? hmm Why hasn't God destroyed Satan yet? For all you Christians out there, y'all probably asked yourself this question many times in y'all life, but y'all so indoctrinated. You're like, you know what? Everything is God's plan, everything is God's will, and all this shit. But we need everybody to really just sit down and analyze the situation. Why hasn't God destroyed the so called enemy of the world? Now, we're going to break this shit down. I want y'all to, subscribe to a channel called Mind Shift. It's better than Chris Angel's Mind Freak. But Mind Shift. And we're going to explore the 5 horrible excuses on why God hasn't destroyed Satan from the apologetics of the Christians. Christians. Y'all don't remember old school wrestling, man. Y'all don't remember that was Christian song after he went solo. After the team broke up. Edge and Christian was a cold team, but I can't fuck with Edge. Like I respect his career. He worked his way from a tag team superstar to the rated R superstar champion. But his personal life, he's a fucking homewrecker. Flirting with Lita, Matt Hardy's girlfriend, while he was married, nigga, Edge, fuck you. And fuck you, Lita. Because you could have been like, I have someone that bought me a house and the dog took care of me when I was injured, and your ass just driving on the road with me flirting. No, nigga, no. You're my husband's best friend. Why Lita ain't say none of that shit? For real, for real. It's like a bitch cheat on me. I was like, nigga, I used to go to females all the time and get rejected. They be like, I have a man, I have a husband, I'm pregnant, I got a crazy baby daddy, I got this, I got that. But your bitch ass can't motherfucking tell this nigga, like, look, you're my husband's friend, and I'm in a relationship. Nigga just bought me a house, a dog, and took care of me with when I had a broken fucking neck or a fucking broken leg, whatever the fuck she had at the time. This nigga straight up, Matt Hardy gave his all. And plus, I'm gonna never forget that interview. I'm gonna never forget that interview when he called in and told her ass, he just done this shit to his fucking wife. You think he gonna do that shit to you, Lita? Years later, Lita's not with Edge. Matt Hardy moved on. He's happy. Edge semi moved on, but he's kind of happy. But Lita is alone. But anyway, man, that's wrestling news. I need to talk about that some more. But yeah, like this is the music and gaming channel, but I think I got maybe like 4 or 5 more days left on my, on my main channel. Like this, where I usually talk about this type of shit at. So let's get it started. Why hasn't God destroyed Lucifer? Okay.
Recently watched The Return of the King from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, after Sam and Frodo have finally destroyed the One Ring in the Fiery Chasm, they are rescued by the large eagles away from Mount Doom. Now, I'm not the first person to have this thought. It is an ongoing debate about this major plot hole. Why did the Fellowship not simply send the rings with the large eagles to fly straight to Mount Doom and drop it off? Think of all the suffering that could have been saved. Think of all the deaths that needlessly occurred. Think about all of the harm and pain and evil that was allowed to persist during this entire journey. So, what's the answer? Well, if it happened that way, we wouldn't have a story. And this seems to be the same line of thinking around why doesn't God just destroy Satan? When Satan first rebelled, as the story goes, why did God not just end his life? Why did God not put him in some hell so far away from human involvement? Surely, with God's foreknowledge, he knew everything that would happen, all the pain, suffering, harm, and death that would occur if Satan was not only allowed to live, but to thrive, to be given dominion over our world, to have access to our very thoughts and heart, to be able to deceive us and confuse us, to lie to us, to possess us even. And by his very existence, more people would die and stay dead or burn eternally in hell forever. So if we have a good God, how do we account for this enemy? And specifically for the allowance of this enemy, despite God's power.
Bull fucking shit.
So far away
Fucking ass.
that in many ways, and specifically
You need to hear this again.
around why doesn't God just destroy Satan?
Hear
When
it again.
Satan first rebelled, as the story goes, why did God not just end his life? Why did God not put him in some hell so far away from human involvement? Surely, with God's foreknowledge, he knew everything that would happen, all the pain, suffering, harm, and death that would occur if Satan was not only allowed to live, but to thrive, to be given dominion over our world, to have access to our very thoughts and heart, to be able to deceive us and confuse us, to lie to us, to possess us even. And by his very existence, more people would die and stay dead or burn eternally in hell forever. So if we have a good God, how do we account for this enemy? And specifically for the allowance of this enemy, despite God's power and knowledge? That's the question I want to talk about today. And
Exactly. You are omnipotent, cosmic being, powerful. And yet you don't want to destroy this nigga that you know is gonna fuck your shit up. You know what I'm saying? It's a bad parent. Excuse me. Bad parent. Bad parenting. Bad fucking parenting. Or maybe he's one of those fathers that's a bad parent, but he don't want to kill his son. But you'll let your son beat the shit out of each other though. Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, everybody trying to jump Lucy, but like Lucy got those hands though. He's still able to walk in heaven like, yo, what's up, God? God like, yo, what you think of my servant Job? Satan like, man, he wouldn't be shit without you. So take away his possessions. I bet you that nigga say, fuck you. I bet you he don't. I bet you he do. I bet you he don't. I bet you he do. And then they made a bet over a nigga's life.
it's not as deep as you would think. There's not that far you can go with it. The way that I have decided to structure this video is two parts. In part one, we're going to establish the role of Satan. I want to do this biblically so that we can clear things up, because Satan is a mess in the Bible, at least if you take the entire Bible as a univocal story of sorts. So part one will be trying to establish that, and then part two, I just want to look at God's inaction, and I want to cover the excuses that apologists give for this, see if they really hold up. So I hope you'll follow me along today. This is a thought that I know most people have had at some time in their life, so let's give it as much attention as we can here. And again, the first thing I want to do is talk about the evolution of Satan. This is something that could get its own series. The origins of Satan, the mythology of Satan, what Satan becomes from where he starts, is an incredible thing to understand and to talk about. And I'm going to give you just the briefest version of it today. So in the Old Testament, we have the Satan, the accuser, an angel of the Lord, part of God's very counsel. The first place that we could possibly see Satan is in Genesis 3, but this is just the serpent. And it isn't until much later, and because of some verses in Revelation, that Christians associated the serpent with Satan, or Lucifer, or the devil, or whatever name we want to be talking about. But the Genesis account is just that of a crafty serpent, a talking animal.
Right. A crafty serpent. So this nigga made a land full of animals that can talk and shit. Sound like some Jungle Book shit to me.
Animal that had a level of knowledge about the way things were. We see no lie from this serpent. We see the lie actually on behalf of God. God says
exactly. The lie was from God. It's like, if you eat this fruit, you will surely die. And I keep on telling motherfuckers that, but like they want to overlook it. But I bet you he say it.
Die if they eat. They do not surely die. Maybe a spiritual death. We could talk about that in a different video as well. But all the serpent warns them of is that God doesn't mean that.
What's
You won't
good?
die. You'll have knowledge like him that he doesn't want you to have. And this is biblically accurate. Even if we went with the serpent being Satan, it doesn't really depict Satan the way that we think of him, at least from a New Testament perspective anyways. But again, this isn't to deconstruct the Genesis 3 story, so we'll leave it alone. But this is the first place we could see.
I'm going to deconstruct Genesis 3. Like, nigga, fuck it. It was a serpent. They didn't say no Lucifer. It didn't say Satan. It was just a fucking serpent. But then later on, they connect the serpent with the dragon and all the Final Fantasy transformations and the RPG elements from video games and shit. Even Jesus transformed into a motherfucking slain lamb with 8 eyes. Transformation.
What some Christians will consider to be the influence of the devil in the Old Testament. Now, the next real place that we see the Satan is in Job. We see him a few times, and he is here a part of the heavenly council. He is able to have access to God's throne room. He is having conversations back and forth, bringing ideas, bargaining and negotiating with God himself. And only via God's allowance does Satan do anything that he does. And guaranteed, this is the worst that we get of Satan. He goes and kills Job's children or has them killed. And these deaths are about the only ones we can actually attribute to this horrible creature of pure evil.
I mean, exactly. I said that before. It's like Satan ain't killed nobody unless it was under God's order. Oh yeah, kill Job's family. Destroy his flock. Give him leprosy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, like fuck this shit. And when I say, nigga, this world is an experiment, and they be like, prove it. Well, I can prove it by using the fucking Bible. We are being experimented on. We are treated like test subjects. Exhibit A, Satan and God betting over Job's life. Like, come on, man. I bet you he to turn his back on you. I bet you he don't. I bet you he do. I bet you he don't.
While we can put millions on God, just biblically speaking, but I digress. Again, here, Satan looks like an agent of the Lord. And in fact, throughout all of the Old Testament, we only see Satan as an agent of the Lord. In 1 Chronicles 21:1, we see the Satan, the accuser, incite David into taking a census that he is not supposed to take. The result of which makes God so angry that after this ridiculous genie-like deal through the prophet, David is awarded 3 options for what the punishment will be, and he chooses the one that affects himself the least, but ends up killing 70,000 of his soldiers. Now, interesting enough, there's a direct contradiction with 2 Samuel 24:1.
Fucking ad, here we go. Bullshit.
I am ready, Eric Trump. I want to thank
fuck you, fuck the government. Fuck the government. Ain't nobody going to vote.
Now, interesting enough, there's a direct contradiction with 2 Samuel 24:1, where it says God incites David to take the census. So look up these 2 verses if you've never done it. This is the most
obvious. Yeah, God did it. And speaking of God doing shit to motherfuckers, let's go to where it says, I forgot where in the Bible, like this nigga might say it. I mean, like this cat might say it. The verse where God put an evil spirit on Pharaoh.
Obvious contradiction, I think, in the Old Testament, because it is comparing God himself with Satan, who Christians recognize as the very embodiment of evil, each of them telling David or inciting David to do this census. Now, there's no good way to explain this contradiction, but there is one way that makes.
And what's crazy is, was the devil involved when David got Uriah killed and he took his wife? There was no devil involved. That nigga had a lustful mindset. He wanted to clap Uriah's wife's cheeks and take her. God came down and said, boy, you done fucked up. Nah, you know you done fucked up, right? You know you done fucked up, right?
A little less bad, and it is to say, God was the one still inciting David, but he used his agent, the accuser, Satan, in the First Chronicles version. So see, it was God both times, which would lead to a whole nother issue where God is the one inciting David to do this thing and then punishes him for doing it, especially to the tune of 70,000 people that had nothing to do with this in the first place.
Exactly. However, got 70,000 innocent people fucking killed. David. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention when he took Uriah's wife, he set Uriah on the front line of the most intense battle and he died. You sent the nigga to his death and took his bitch. I hear no Lucifer involvement in that.
You want to defend it, those two verses make God either completely hypocritical, completely evil, or the Bible completely untrustworthy. But going with the very best version of those verses, again, we see Satan doing only what God has told him to do, even if it is evil, even if it will be punished. But the last one that I'll give you today from the Old Testament is Zechariah 3, 1 through 2, I believe, where we have Satan accusing the high priest Joshua. Now here, God does not agree with Satan. In fact, he rebukes Satan for this accusation of Joshua. And so we see, again, Satan under God's thumb. He's able to bring an accusation against someone. He's able to say, hey, here's the issue. But in this case, God, for whatever reason, says, no, I rebuke you. You're wrong. Would have been nice if he did that for Job. Because again, we know Job was perfect. He was righteous before God. So, long story short, Satan in the Old Testament is a sole individual, not a demonic horde. He is an agent of the Lord who performs a certain task as almost some prosecuting attorney for individuals before the Lord. Keep in mind, throughout the course of the Old Testament, we don't even see one demonic possession. We do see the spirit of the Lord, an evil spirit of the Lord, even fall onto certain people.
Yep.
This is from God, God causing confusion, God hardening a heart, God sending a lying spirit. By the time
and God killing millions of fucking firstborns with a plague. Why you just didn't murk Pharaoh? That was my first question. It wasn't, like the first question, like before I came to the question, why God doesn't murk Lucifer yet? My first question, why did God put an evil spirit on Pharaoh right after you put Moses through all this bullshit, climbing mountains and shit with no safety protection and the air thin? And I don't know how an old motherfucker can climb a mountain. Nobody questioned that shit. Just to talk to a burning fucking bush. How is a burning fucking bush on a fucking mountain? Where in the mountain? It was a cleft in the mountain because remember, an old man is climbing a mountain with no safety. And mind you, this nigga had to climb back down with tablets in his hand. How the fuck do you do that? Who writes this shit?
Jesus arrives on the scene in the New Testament. We have demonic possession everywhere and all of these demons that are running around in legions and hordes that need to be exorcised. And you would think, oh no, this is still Judaism, except it's not. This is a Greco-Roman influence, and it really gets developed via the New Testament. And we can see the evolution of the devil and his powers in a few of these verses. I'll just give you like 5. In Matthew 4, 1 through 11, Satan is tempting Jesus while Jesus is in the wilderness fasting for 40 days. Now, this is very different. We don't see Satan going before God the Father getting permission to go tempt Jesus. We see Satan and Jesus, the two figures, the main entities, the spiritual yin and yang, fighting it out in the wilderness. Satan now becomes the embodiment of evil, the one trying to take down the Christ himself. This is something we could have never imagined to see in the Old Testament or prophecies about the Messiah. In John 12:31, we see another evolution where Satan becomes the ruler of the world. In 2 Corinthians 4:4, it jumps up another notch, the God of this world, or the God of this age, as it is sometimes referred, Satan, causing blindness and confusion in unbelievers. It says, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel. Again, so much for free will, but we'll get to that in part 2. Also, 1 Peter 5:8, Satan is not some passive entity just shown up when God decides to include him. No, Satan here is shown as a roaring lion on the prowl, on the hunt, looking for those he can destroy. And then some may argue here, but Revelation 12:9 is where we really tie it all the way back to the serpent, the great dragon, the deceiver, who is called the devil, who is called Satan. He was thrown down to the earth with his angels, thus giving Satan the power needed for this great deception over all the world with all his dominion on the physical and even spiritual properties of the earth itself. The main point I want to make before moving on to part 2 is we have a Satan that, because of his mere existence, let alone the power given to him, there are people that have been born, are born, and will be born that, according to the Bible itself, will burn in hell forever because of the existence of this being. That if he wasn't here, they wouldn't be blinded, they wouldn't be confused, they wouldn't be deceived, and they would otherwise be with God for eternity. So this goes a little bit back to my will to save discrepancy, where we have many verses saying God and Jesus desire that none should be lost. You mix that with the power of prayer, where if we pray sincerely and in faith in groups of 2 or 3 for God's will to be done, he will answer. And yet if God's will is for those to be saved and those prayers are happening and we're still not saved, we have a major issue. But a piece of that puzzle is the fact that we have an enemy making things worse, an enemy taking away free will, an enemy that if he had just been destroyed, every single thing about the existence of humanity would be better. And yet we have a God that has not taken action. So let us move on to part 2, the inaction.
Fucking ads. Well, let's go to part 2 and then the ad pop on. And that's some real shit that he just said. He just motherfucking was spitting, nigga. He was spitting bars.
I think the first thing I'd like to do here is return to the Bible and just show in a few verses that God's inaction when it comes to this other agent is nothing new.
And
again, returning
real
to
shit. What's crazy is when I was debating these indoctrinated Christians, and I was hitting them with these verses. Not these exact verses, but like hitting them with verses of the contradiction. It was like, like it was crazy because you know how brainwashed Christians like to cherry pick Bible verses. So it was like I automatically knew which verse that was its contradiction. It was so fucking awesome. And then I came to a point in my life, I'm not about to argue or debate with a Christian no more, because I had to come to a realization of you can't battle facts with faith. Real shit. You can motherfucking have the facts, evidence in their face, on the table, in the silver platter next to $1 billion. They gonna be like, I believe in Jesus. All money ain't good money. And that's why you're broke. I'm giving you the truth next to $1 billion, and you don't want to pick up the truth in this money.
Comes to this other agent is nothing new. Again, returning to Job, I think, is the easiest thing. And if you want more here, just go watch my Job video from my secular Bible study series. I cover a lot of these same points. But we have Satan asking to do something. And yeah, God sets some limits. What were the limits God set with Job? He just couldn't kill Job. Anything else was fair game, even to the tune of dead children. And not only did God...
He said anything else was fair game. He could have been, Satan could have came in there, did a levitating move and plowed Job's wife on the ceiling while he laughed at Job hanging upside down. How you like this? God told me to do it. God told me to do it. Where's your kids at? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This motherfucker wilding, bro. Why you just don't work this thing?
Endorse and condone this behavior from Satan himself. He stayed out of it. He kept his hands clean. He boasted about his power. He boasted about his knowledge, and yet he did nothing.
Yeah, he boasted about his power and knowledge after Job finally was like, yo, God, what's up? He's like, who the fuck you think you was questioning what I'm doing? Was you there when I created this and created that, and I got all this power with and that and the blah, 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 and made Job be like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord. Fucking bitch. But a whole bunch of motherfucking poor mindset motherfuckers is like, well, we gotta suffer just like Job suffered, and we gotta just keep that faith in the Lord and all that bullshit. Keep that mustard seed of faith. I don't want to be wrong and go to hell. Niggas are so fucked up in the head.
Power and knowledge to know what would happen and to stop it from happening, to, I don't know, protect the innocent life. Remember how Christians always talk about how every single soul God has a plan for, the inherent dignity and value of each human being? Well, those children definitely seem like pure collateral to God, not to mention all of the workers that were killed who worked for Job. This is a God of inaction while Satan goes on destroying. In Luke 22:31 through 32, there's a really interesting occurrence that happens. Apparently, Jesus and Satan were talking at some unspecified time, and Satan told Jesus of his plans to sift Peter like wheat. He says, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded to have you. Now, many scholars interpret this as to test Peter. And do you know what Jesus did? He didn't stop Satan from doing it. He said, I'll pray for you. He gave us the very first Christian, I'll send thoughts and prayers instead of action, even though he's the most capable being in the history of the universe to actually do.
Jesus like, yo, nigga, I pray for you.
Action here. He just says, I'll be praying for you. Now, this verse is pivotal in some of the excuses, which is what we're going to cover with the rest of part 2 here, that certain apologists give for why Satan is still around. Another inaction of God is 2 Corinthians 12:7. In fact, it is actual action of God that is in direct opposition with what his inaction should have looked like. Paul, who might be getting a big head despite everything he has said about boasting, recognizes that God himself has sent Satan, the messenger, as a thorn in his side to keep him from being too cocky. So simply because you might commit a sin, God will send Satan himself to cause some physical or spiritual torment to you.
The time has come. Things will no longer be secret.
And another ad.
Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus of
Cause
Nazareth.
some physical or spiritual from being too cocky. So simply because you might commit a sin, God will send Satan himself to cause some physical or spiritual torment to you, just to keep you subdued, to make sure you don't get too high on all the revelation of Christ that's going on. This is straight.
Yeah, that's some crazy shit. That's some crazy shit. Like, you just heard that. That's some crazy ass shit.
From Paul's mouth. This is not me guessing at this stuff. And the last verse I'll do is, again, going back to Revelation 21:3, where we have Satan, or the great dragon, the serpent, the devil, all of the different things that are alluded to here, is chained in a bottomless pit for 1,000 years. So that what? So that he will not continue to deceive the nations, is what is said. But after 1,000 years, he must, is the word, must be released for a little bit.
And that, when I read the Bible from front to back and I made it to that, that's when I had the question. Like, why would you chain a nigga up for 1,000 years just to let him come back and reign? Like, nigga, just murk this nigga already. What's up? We at the end. Nigga, this shit turned to a Final Fantasy final boss fight. Nigga, we at the final boss fight right here. The motherfucking Lucifer just transformed into his motherfucking 10-head dragon form. This motherfucker going ham out here. You know what I'm saying? But nah.
So the one time that God actually does something about this creature, it only lasts for 1,000 years. It's to stop the deceit that has been going on for, who knows, this could be 10 billion years in the future. It could be tomorrow. Biblically speaking, how many souls have to end up in hell or annihilation or whatever you want to say before God says, you know what, I think it's time we bring about that 1,000 years. I think this is the tipping point of how much deceit I want brought into my world that I am in complete control of with my all powerfulness. Every second that God waits to destroy this enemy is another nick of injustice for this perfect being. Every single soul that dies and is bound to hell forever, while Satan roams the earth trying to devour people with deceit and confusion, is simply another example of God's evil. Because if you can stop that from happening to even one person, especially when you say that's what you desire and you don't, you're not only complicit, you're responsible. There is simply no getting around it. And yet, Many will try. In fact, I've written down 5 of the main responses I think Christians try to give for this. I'd like to state them and then tell you why I don't think they hold up. Let's start with free will, the most ironic of the defenses.
Here we go.
Well,
here we go, because we hear this free will shit all the time. Everybody talks about free will on all levels. Nah, we about to break down what this free will shit biblically, okay? Because, like I said, if you ask any Christian what Jesus is, everybody gonna give you a different fucking answer. And everybody is already divided in that community. And the stats are showing, all you gotta do is go look it up. The stats are showing a lot of motherfuckers are leaving religion the fuck alone and going towards spirituality. Because niggas are waking up and realize, man, this shit ain't working. This world is run by murderers, liars, and thieves. They killing us through the food, through the water, through the air, through disease. Niggas is deleting themselves every 13.7 minutes. Where is Jeebus?
If we didn't have this opposition to God, bringing in the chance for sin, bringing in temptation, bringing in the opportunity to go astray, then we're all robots for God. This is the greatest black or white fallacy, while at the same time actually doing the very thing it says it's trying to avoid. By having an actor in the world who can control minds, who can infiltrate spirits, who can lie, who can get in your head and convince you that a certain thing is true, even when it is untrue, that a certain thing is from God himself, even when it's actually from the enemy himself, this is inexcusable and a complete lack of free will. Think about what this being is: Lucifer, Satan, the devil, someone who was created way before humans. Who knows how many eons of knowledge and power Lucifer had while still in the heavenly host. His intellect, his powers versus some 15-year-old boy who's, by the way, past the age of accountability, some 30-year-old woman, some 80-year-old couple who makes the wrong choice. Are any of these a match for the father of lies? Think about how weak and feeble and immature and impossibly outmatched any human would be against this actual force. That very being acting in this world with the shape of our limited mortal minds and souls is a direct refutation of free will. It is adding in a player that robs free will. And your excuse for why that player is allowed is also free will? No.
Yeah, exactly. Shit crazy. You're supposed to have free will. But you brought an agent in the world to motherfuckers keep us astray from the path of being a good motherfucker. Nigga, fuck bullshit. But it also let me know that if this shit, let's just replace God and Satan with alien. And going back to the universal code or the universal law. These motherfuckers came down here and made everybody confused and deceived motherfuckers to get motherfuckers like this. This had to have been a peaceful planet at one point in time. And motherfuckers came down here, confused everybody so they could motherfucker overthrow this bitch. It's simple. They killing us through the food, through the water, through the air, through the disease. It's like it's terraforming this motherfucker. You know? But that's another story for another day.
No, you can't do this. It doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I completely understand that some level of required resistance builds character. Great. And we've all heard analogies like this, but seriously, if I put a serial murderer genius in a cage with my 2-year-old, I have assured an outcome, right? My 2-year-old has no chance. It's too much. It can't build his character. It's not going to help in any sense of the imagination. There's nothing that is going to happen here that is going to end up being productive. It is going to be a net loss. And obviously, the second one soul that God says he desires is not lost, gets lost because of this little game, this little test, this opportunity for free will, you've already lost. And then look at the billions that, if this story were true, are burning in hell right now, and tell me this makes any sense. The second excuse, an even bigger cop-out, I think, is that of God's sovereignty. God can do whatever he wants, and God has a plan that he wants to fulfill where he's utilizing Satan as an agent, like we see in the Old Testament, and you don't have to like it. But at the end, God will defeat him. God will finally defeat evil. This is the story.
Yeah, we'll finally defeat him. It's like, but you let this nigga do whatever the fuck he wants. He was your agent. Man, after I got done reading the Bible from front to back and found out it was full of puzzles, mysteries, riddles, contradictions, metaphors, symbolisms, parables, numerologies, and a splash of spirituality and a shitload of inconsistencies and plot holes, I had to motherfucking find out. I had to read it in that form to understand it fully. And also, I had to motherfucking find the other books that was supposed to be in the Bible and read that. You know, Lucifer got a book. It's not called the Book of Lucifer, though. It's called the Book of Samael. That's Lucifer's real fucking name, according to the book. According to the book, Samael is his real name. And in his book, in so many motherfucking words, let's just summarize it up. He didn't want to serve us. God said, bitch, you gonna serve. He said, no, the fuck I'm not. He said, well, fuck you then. Well, fuck you then. We're banging. And it was an awesome. But read the book of Samuel. You know the 12 tribes of Israel? They got their own book. Yeah. It's short like a motherfucker. Those motherfuckers were some badass motherfuckers. Those are some warriors. I forgot what book I was reading. I think it was the book of, it was either the book of Raziel or the book of Enoch. I'm not sure. But the book of Raziel is pretty good. Also, the book of Raziel is the angel of secrets. He is the secrets of God. Man, that book is a bad motherfucker, bro. The book of Raziel. I'm talking about, man, nigga. Like when I read the books that were supposed to be in the Bible, it was more interesting than the Bible. But it filled in the holes that I was looking for. But then after I got the full understanding, it was like, okay, is this God worth worshiping? And the answer was fucking no. And then going back to what I've been through in my life, I'm like, God ain't answered none of my motherfucking prayers at all. Motherfuckers got worse the more I prayed for them. Like, what the fuck is going on? People got worse, situations got worse. So it's like, man, fuck this shit. And then the good for nothing bitch that was part of the church, fuck the nigga over there. It was like, all right, okay. Fuck God, fuck Jesus, fuck the devil. I see y'all bitches in real life. If y'all real, y'all catching these hands. Bring it on. Bring it on. Some of this bitch like Joe Swanson.
Glory. This is for his glory. And if it's the way God wants to do it, then by golly, you better get on board. And
I read about that too. Real shit. It was a whole bunch of books on this guy. It was Samuel. It was motherfucking. He was called something else too. Sackcloth. I'm like, I'm talking about, man, like I was really deep diving rabbit holes and reading a shitload of books, like to really get the full understanding. And then what really intrigued me was King Solomon's book of the motherfucking 72 Goetian demons and shit. On how he used the ring given to him by God to control him and force those motherfuckers to build the goddamn temple of Jerusalem. And you got to think about this, if this is real or not. You got to just think about it. Think about it. People, humans are walking into a temple not knowing that it was force created by demons. You wonder why shit going on crazy over there. like the place created by fucking demons. Like nigga, the Temple of Jerusalem where you go worship God at was created by fucking demons. Like nigga, think about it. Think about it. That book was fucking crazy. Demons was telling motherfuckers like, nigga, we gonna get you in the end, Solomon. We gonna get your ass in the end. You got us now. You got us all now, but we getting you in the end. Because he made Asmodeus his right hand, and there was 2 stories. I like the gruesome one better. But there's a friendly story of Asmodeus being like a friend to King Solomon. I'm like, nigga, you befriending a demon. Niggas got to think about this shit. This shit is fucking crazy, dog. This shit is fucking crazy. So I'm like, you know, but like it was very interesting. The book was interesting because it talked about all the demons, and then it talked about how to destroy the demons. And then what I found out, some of these demons gotta be get rid of by saying the proper angel's name. And I'm like, why is this? Because these demons are the kids of these fucking angels. I'm like, what? Wait, what? How did this happen? Oh yeah, he came down and fucked that demon bitch last week. I'm like, wait a minute, no, nigga, I'm not reading this. I can't be reading what I'm reading right now. So a specific demon, and you wonder why, you know, like you thinking you exercising the demon through possession or whatever. You know, this possession talk right now. So motherfuckers thinking, you know, like we did the exorcism, but the demon didn't leave. So it's kind of understandable why, because you probably didn't call upon the right angel. Everybody keep on calling upon the same angel, Gabriel or Michael. Use your flaming sword. Use whatever fucking weapon they use to motherfucker do some bullshit. So yeah. Going down these rabbit holes, reading all these books was fucking amazing. I'm like, nigga, this shit is better than the fucking Bible. This shit is better than the fucking Bible. But my favorite book is The Secret Book of John, where it talks about the beginning. The beginning, be fucking getting. And the beginning talks about Sophia creating Yaldabaoth, and Yaldabaoth is really Jehovah. It's like, you know, that was my favorite book, because like when you're trying to look for the source of everything, you try to look for like, who's God? Why is there evil? It makes a lot of sense when you read The Secret Book of John. Like it makes a lot of fucking sense. Read those books of the King James was also heavily into demonology. Yeah, another connection. Thank you. Another fucking connection. Motherfucker knew what was up. Yeah, they was digging on the spells. The NWO was going to use, so they hid the books. Yeah. And then they killed the Gnostics. They killed the Gnostics, so like some of the Gnostics hid the shit. And then once, oh my God, shit was crazy. When they killed off the Gnostics to hide this shit, and they dug this shit up in the 40s. By the 70s, the shit was deciphered. And then these motherfuckers put it out there. Now, we live in this day and age where motherfuckers waking up. They wish, I know they probably wish, yo, man, why we decipher this shit? Because we wanted to be world-renowned archaeologists. Well, The niggers have woke up. You can't brainwash them with this Christian shit no more. What we gonna do? We'll just use the EMF weapon.
And this, to me, is simply what Christians have to tell themselves to be able to be okay with the obvious issue that this is, when they can't reason it away with something like free will. When all other excuses fail, you turn to God's sovereignty. You return to his mystery. But it's so clear that this is an unnecessary level of harm as a byproduct just to achieve this end victory. God is supposedly all-powerful. Correct? So there has to then be another way that God could achieve this same outcome with less harm as a byproduct. If there's not another way.
Let me tell you something. When I was reading the secret motherfucking books, there was one point, I forgot what it was. I don't know. I think it was the book of Raziel or the book of Enoch. I'm not really sure. It was probably Raziel. I'm not sure. But God was asking the head angels and its followers. I mean, like the head angel's followers. I don't know why. Asked them about humanity. And it said, Gabriel's people, Michael's people, and Uriah's people was like, we hate humanity. It said God raised his little finger and the angels disintegrated. I was like, whoa, just killed those niggas. But the other angels was like, nigga, fuck those humans. And they got disintegrated. They could die like G's. So now, before the nigga name was Raphael, he turned around and told his angels, hey, yo, when God asked y'all about humanity, do not say what those other motherfuckers said. It was like, bet. God came down to this nigga, was like, yo, dog, I heard what you did. Hey, yo, nigga, I'm going to change your name to Raphael. Nigga, you the angel of healing or whatever. Blase, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? I was like, I don't know if it was Raphael or motherfucking Uriel, but like, it was one of the bitches. I was like, God damn, nigga. God just, it said he was sitting on his throne and raised his little finger. So like, picture you sitting on the throne, right? You know how you sit on the throne, you got your arms on the rest. It said he raised his little finger. So like, that's the pinky. So he's sitting down and just said, bitch, pinky finger. Kiss the ring, bitch. It just motherfucking disintegrated these niggas. Said it's not just motherfucker sat on his throne and just like, like he didn't get up or speak. He just raised his pinky finger like this. Now I know Gabriel or Michael was like, this nigga just killed my whole fucking squad. But I can't say shit because he's gone. He killed my whole squad. I can't say shit because he's gone. That's a bar.
Another way, God's not all powerful. And the very fact that the number is so alarmingly high, there is so much confusion, so much falling away, so much deceit, so many unbelievers, so many people who are Christian, who at least think they're Christian according to the word, only to be spit out of the mouth of Jesus later when he says, I never knew you. That's going to be because they were deceived. They thought they had it right and they didn't. That's not fair. That's not some great.
Yeah, Jesus did say that. He said, y'all gonna come to him and he'll be like, nigga, I never knew you. He'll be like, but I pray to you every day. Oh yeah, but you thought you was praying to me, but you've been deceived. And plus you was being very judgmental and materialistic and bougie to your neighbors. And plus, I should sue your ass for defamation.
Grand plan. That's bad planning. That's collateral damage to an unacceptable level, and no excuse of sovereign God is going to fix that. One of the things I wanted to do for each of these, by the way, was an analogy, because analogies are what bring it home for me. That's what really helps me understand how ridiculous some of these concepts are. Imagine.
But I want to make a disclaimer. I always make the disclaimer when I, like when I talk about these Christian videos. I fucks with Christians, but there's only certain type of Christians I fuck with. All right. And these Christians that I do fuck with heavy, and like they fuck with me heavy. It's the conspiracy theorist Christians, like the ones that's trying to connect the conspiracies, the Bible, and whatnot. But like they do it on a level of not a motherfucking logic, not just motherfucker just saying shit just to be saying shit and fear mongering. You're like a person that actually, like you're doing a research, But the next Christians that I like are the spiritualist Christians. Now, the spiritualist Christians, we connect on a level of meditation. They believe Jesus lives in the heart because they believe in the Bible. It said Jesus lives within. The spiritualist Christians believe if they connect with their heart chakra and they will live righteously, they're walking in the embodiment of Jesus and Christ consciousness and whatnot. That's why I fucks with the spiritualist Christians, because we can relate to meditation and dealing with the heart chakra, and that's love. So, and I think it's another type of Christian. I'm not sure. I think it's just the spiritualist Christians and the oh yeah. And I can't forget about the Gnostic Christians. The Gnostic Christians, we fuck with each other because I'm kind of leaning towards the Yalda Bayoff motherfucking shit on the secret book of John. Yalda Bayoff, Chief Archon and shit, like these niggas was killed. These niggas was killed for that. So it gotta be a level of truth to that some kind of way. If y'all niggas was hunted down and killed by the fucking Romans and y'all had to hide the shit, and the shit got dug up in the 40s, deciphered in the 70s, and be like, oh my God. So yeah, so the spiritualist Christians, conspiracy Christians, and the Gnostic Christians, I fucks with them and they fucks with me. But the ones that's always cherry picking Bible verses, the judgmental Christians, the bougie Christians, the ones that look down on Christians for smoking weed. I'm like, bitch, I smoke weed because it gives me knowledge. Like the nigga from San Andreas said, remember the NPC? I smoke because it gives me knowledge. And it has my meditation shit. But like motherfuckers think motherfuckers smoke weed and go crazy. It's like they look down on the nigga. I'm like, bitch, just hit a blunt. But like most motherfuckers can't hit weed. Some motherfuckers become paranoid. Some motherfuckers go to sleep. And some motherfuckers can kick back, be laid back, and blow like 10 or 20 blunts and still be good enough to talk to you like I am now. I just got done blowing like 6 of these motherfucking blunts. Pause, no diddy. I got done smoking 6 motherfuckers. I smoke because it gives me knowledge.
Understand how ridiculous some of these concepts are. Imagine a CEO, this will be God, and he sees that one of his top people is embezzling money. Now, what should the CEO do right then and there? If you're honest, you would say he should address it. He should fire and or go after legally the embezzler, because the individual embezzler, not everyone else, needs to be punished. That punishment can be a lesson to others, and it will be protecting all the others who work at that company by keeping that company afloat, by keeping it healthy, therefore ensuring the potential growth, comfort, and security of all the other workers. But what if instead the CEO never ever addressed it, never told anyone about it, never fired the embezzler because he had some great grand plan that millennia later, or if we're sticking in the realm of the possible, that 80 years from now he was going to reveal this embezzler and they were going to finally get their justice. Now, in the meantime, sure, were there hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of employees at this huge company that lost their job because there wasn't enough trust in the company and the public stock market because of these unexplained things that were going on financially. They had to do all of these layoffs. They couldn't focus on developing a better product or process that they were selling. It was all about covering this up, always dealing with this, the threat of this happening on a daily basis. It took over the entire scope of the company. Would that be a good CEO, or would you say that CEO could have and should have done better? But let's move on to the third one, which is similar to the first two. It's moral and spiritual growth. You need an enemy. You need to be able to be tempted and even give in and lose to recognize what a sinner you are, how weak you are as a person, and only in that understanding? Can you properly grovel? Can you properly see your place as a creature of the dirt who needs a savior? Then you can start to be morally perfected. Is it impossible to gain this knowledge in the world that we have, even with suffering, even with sin, without having this other enemy force? Like, again, maybe I should back up. This black or white fallacy that without Satan, everything could be perfect. It doesn't have to be. If God still wants there to be trial and tribulation, he can cause that. Do your own
Exactly.
dirty work, God. But at least then we would know, supposedly, if this God is actually good, that every single thing he is doing for us, to bring us closer and to save the individual. When it's handed over to the devil, who has full dominion over the earth, the admittance there is that there's going to be casualties. There's going to be losses. This is just what has to happen for free will or God's sovereignty or moral or spiritual improvement to work out. Sorry, tough. It's a very limited mindset, not one we would expect from an omniscient or omnipotent God, and not one that we would rightly justify for anything else ever in history, yet alone the God of all creation. The analogy I give here is a very dumb teacher. Imagine if you showed up as a parent to parent-teacher conferences and you wanted to pick a bone with the teacher because your child has come home crying every single
God damn it, ass. Hate these fucking ass. These ass ain't shit.
conferences, and you wanted to pick a bone with the teacher because your child has come home crying every single day. Every day, the child is harassed by this teacher. Every day, they are put down. They are called names. They are punished. They are struck. They are embarrassed. They are isolated. They are anything negative in the world that could ever even bring about a positive return. The idea from this teacher is, if we don't beat, starve, ridicule, and criticize these children, how will they learn? How will they improve? Would you keep your child there? Would you aim to have the teacher fired? Would you question the ethics and the strategy of the school, the superintendent, the principal, etc.? Of course you would. But when God seemingly does this, you say, what? Oh, he knows best. Oh, this is a good plan. That's totally justifiable. Because somewhere out there, there's someone that's morally improving. Someone has a chance because of all of this to gain spiritual insight they otherwise wouldn't have had. Would you expect that teacher, by the way, to be aware enough, smart enough, psychologically sound enough to utilize some positive reinforcement at least? Is there no beneficial way of morally improving someone? I've been in management for a long time, and one of the simplest things I've ever learned is not to try to catch people doing things wrong, but to try to catch people doing things right. You catch someone doing something wrong and you shame them for it, even if it's to try to help them grow from it. Yes, it might stick. Yes, you might actually get a desired outcome the next time, but you're not changing a core behavior. But if you catch someone doing something right, what they naturally were doing, without you having to always have a carrot and a stick, and you recognize that, to build around that, you're going to get way better performance from a way better individual. I can recognize this with a few decades under my belt and a couple good management books, but the God of all creation can't see anything other than carrot and stick, beat them when they're down, introduce the worst possible thing into the world to create the most possible harm ever with the excuse of moral improvement. Demand more from your God. The next excuse is, Brandon, you're wrong. God will punish Satan. It's just deferred, as if this fixes everything else we just talked about. All it does is highlight it. Just because you think God's going to win in the end, because Satan will finally be destroyed. If you really believe that, first of all, I'd encourage you to watch this video. In this video, I show that if even one person is burning in hell forever, that God, as the person who created all of this, who didn't have to, who was under no requirements, who did so only for his own glory, that if he's serious about desiring none to be lost, and even one is lost, God lost. Evil won. We know how many people have been alive on this earth. We know that the count is an insane number of billions and billions and billions of people burning in hell forever. And so the idea of deferred or prolonged punishment becomes ridiculous. The analogy here is simple. How about, let's go back to a serial killer who gets caught. It is clear what they have done. We know there's already been 28 people who have had their lives robbed, but we have finally caught him. And whatever your sense of justice is, at least now we can stop the next person from becoming a victim, right? That should be the end goal here. But what if instead the judge says, hey, we've identified who did what, and yes, it was wrong, but with all the wisdom that I have, my decision is to let this serial killer back into society. But don't worry, we're only going to do it for like 50 years. Then we're going to bring him in and we're going to give him the worst punishment he's ever had. Do you think anyone would stand up in that courtroom and clap? Do you think anyone would say, look at this? What an amazing idea. What justice. What fairness. What a victory. No, of course not. And neither is this idea of God's great victory over evil in the end. If it's in the end, it means it wasn't in the middle and it wasn't in the beginning. And everything that has happened in between becomes completely inexcusable. The last one, and maybe the most pathetic of the excuses that I've heard in reference to this, is God does it to test one's faith. There's nothing more important than faith. And for faith to be real, it has to be challenged.
Yep.
It has to be.
And like I said, going back to my realization, why I would never argue with a fucking Christian is you cannot battle facts with faith. Most Christians cherry pick Bible verses and they talk in circles. You will be wasting your time, your energy, because these Christians need their head knocked off. Real shit, nigga. I be having to hold back. But this is why I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna just stop. But there were certain Christians that fucked with me, fucked with my content, and I fuck with their perspective. Conspiracy Christians, Gnostic Christians, and spiritual Christians. Spiritual, Gnostic, and conspiracy. You know? Now, even though these conspiracy theory Christians, they got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, but they'll get it together. But at least, like they on the path. And like they ain't no pussy ass nigga, like they ain't gonna let nobody fuck them over. They'll bust nigga upside the head. You know what I'm saying? Conspiracy theorists still believe nigga fuck the government. They can fuck those niggas. Nigga, I'll blast with my family. I'll do it in the name of God.
Tested. Even if this were true to an extent, the way that this is acted out, if this is how we're using it as an excuse, come on. If you were in a relationship with someone, I'm jumping straight to the analogy here, and you've told them you've loved them, and maybe the two of you have even been through some hard things. You've been through some personality differences. Maybe you lost someone close to you and you had to deal with that together. Maybe there's been some hurt from between each other. You've already had to go through many things and also many positive things that brought the two of you closer. But one person in this relationship continues for the entirety of the relationship. There's never a reached end to put the other person through trials and tests just to make sure that they're loved. Like beat them just to see if they'll stick around. I'm just testing your love for me. By the way, this is exactly what God did with Job. So if when I said that a second ago, you thought, ugh, and now you're trying to make an excuse for God who just clearly did that in Job, I think you have some cognitive dissonance you should work out. And I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Get up!
Because I made these excuses forever myself. But when I put God even at a human level to see how much he fails, then you give him back his properties of perfection, love, justice, peace, light, all-powerful, all-knowing, foreknowing. No. It doesn't work. Again, if this person over and over and over physically, spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally abused the other person in the name of testing their love for them, we would consider this person to be evil. So help me understand what excuse other than these 5 there is for the simplest question that most people ask sometime in their childhood. If Satan is bad and evil and has power to hurt us or to even separate us from God, why does God allow it? I got to a point in my life where I couldn't, and it was just one of many issues that made it very clear to me that even if this God were real, I simply could not consider him good or worthy of worship. So also know that I say none of this to say this proves God isn't real. No, it doesn't. God could be evil. God could be bad. God could be inept. God could be confused. God could be stupid. God could be careless. God could be apathetic. God could be a billion things and still exist. But would it be a good God then? Would it be a God I should love, respect, obey, fear, and worship? I don't think so. It doesn't disprove God. It just disproves the unity of the Bible, the consistency of the Bible, the love of this God, the justice of this God, the very nature of this God as he is self-reported even. And for that, I think it is a major issue. So thanks for being here. Please let me know your thoughts on this one. I will see you Tuesday.
Yeah. Shouts out to Big Dog Philly OG. That was the end of the video. You might have to catch the playback. But we talking about if God was real, why hasn't that motherfucker murked Satan yet? Deconstructed the Bible with the verses and everything. You gotta catch the playback. I gotta get ready to go to work. The Tigers playing this shit. So I gotta get down there and get ready to clean that motherfucker up and shit. But yeah, shouts out to Big Dog Philly Yo G. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to his channel. You know the message. You know everybody. Subscribe to everybody. We the Mod Squad, motherfucker. Yeah. You know. Shouts out to Leonardo Yuta. Shouts out to Jada Mindset. I'm still calling Jada Mindset. You know, we in the building. I'm definitely gonna watch the playback. Enjoy your day, bro. Yeah, good looking, good looking. We're about to get ready now. Yeah. Why God hasn't destroyed Satan yet, man? We deconstructed the shit off this bit. It might have to be a part 2. All right, though. Shouts out to everybody. Y'all have a nice afternoon. Let's get it.